Hello, and welcome to Smartboard Lesson Planning number 1 by myself, Scott Miller, and
David Sladke.
we hope that you will join us on a weekly basis as we walk through some different lesson structures and some different planning ideas and tips and tricks to work with on smart notebook software.
That's right. And we'd like you to go to that website we have right down here. And we have the templates that we're going to use for today. You can download those and get some useful lesson templates for yourself.
So, Dave, just a little bit about ourselves and where we're from. Where are we from?
We are from Naperville, Illinois. Naperville is near. Uh-oh.
Is that, oh boy,
Hang on a second.
is that in the middle of Lake Michigan?
We are not in the middle of Lake Michigan. We are in the western part of Chicago, right over there, and there we go.
Okay, we got it fixed.
So we are right near Chicago, and we're Community Unit School District, and we are in Naperville Central High School.
And that high school has a student population of about 3,100 students. Dave is a math teacher there, and I am the instructional coordinator for mathematics in the math department.
That's right, and our emails are right there. So if you'd like to contact us in any way, we'd love to hear from you and any questions that you have. So we'd like to just talk about what we're going to do today, Scott.
Okay. So, Dave, what lesson planning number is this today?
You know what? We have the first lesson right now.
So each time that we will join you, we'll be looking at 3 different features: a lesson idea, a smartboard tip, and also a tutorial. So our lesson idea that we'll begin with is 4-corner sorting. Then we'll move on to inserting pages and looking at page length. And then also our last one is looking at cloning a page.
All right. So let's look at 4-corner sorting. 4-corner sorting, we have a template here that you can use. You can just go ahead and click on each one of these things and change them as you need to. What we have is a math lesson, and this is dealing with whole numbers, integers, rational and irrational, and there's some items in the middle. And what we'd have them do, Scott, is we'd have them work with their partner to get to maybe a couple minutes on their own with their partner, talking about where each of these numbers belongs.
Dave, is this possible you may have this printed out on a sheet of paper for them also?
Yeah, they might want to have it on their paper as well, so they can draw some lines to the appropriate corners as well.
Okay.
So once we have them work on their own with their partner for a couple minutes, then what we're going to do is we're going to take and pick their names at random. We always like to pick their names at random because to keep them ready to go. And we'll pick a card. I usually use cards for my students. I pick a card and have a student come up, and let's say they come up and they use their fingernail. Always use their fingernail, and they take it over to the appropriate corner. And then maybe we have another student pick another number, and they know from previous knowledge that pi was an irrational number.
So Dave, what if they take and say, like, they put the square root of 16 as a rational number?
Okay, so they put it up here. Well, as you know, students and all of us make mistakes, and so this is a good time for discussion. And we talk about, yes, square root of 16 is a rational number. However, the directions on our slide here says the best corner. So what's the best name for square root of 16? And this brings out a lot of interesting ideas, and we might have another student advise this student that was up here, placing it here, where this might go, and some discussion might come out that it is a whole number indeed because it can be reduced.
Okay. Now, Dave, after the students have gone through this process and then have sorted the numbers, and you've had students at random come up and work through this, what would be your next slide then that you would show?
Well, what we'd show is simply the key, just to make sure that we have them all grouped in the right areas. After that, though, what we want to kind of do is turn the tables on them. Is now we ask for them to find 3 different numbers for each corner. So they, on their paper or on their notes, they would come up with ideas with their partner, discussing what kind of numbers would be whole, what kind of numbers would be rational, and then we'd have different pairs of partners come up and demonstrate this in front of the rest of the class.
And then they would also explain why they think the number belongs where
Yeah, it's always
in
good
this
to have
particular
why.
corner.
Absolutely.
Now, after you've gone through this process then of where students were first sorting and now they're going on to coming up with their own and are continuing to construct their knowledge, what's the next piece that you follow through?
Okay, we kind of culminate this with the question of what is and defining a whole number, integer, rational, and irrational number. And we actually have them come up with their definitions from the previous exercises, and then we'll share this out with the rest of the class. We might even have them write that up on the smartboard at a new slide, and in this way we have different language coming out from each of the groups to come up with an idea of what is a whole number.
Now, this particular process then, Dave, of working through this lesson is very, very different than what a typical traditional lesson might be, of starting with the definition first and then working through examples. You're getting students then to construct their knowledge, but then in the process then of using the tool of the smartboard and notebook software and getting students then to interact with the process of their knowledge base. What
Yeah,
have you found has been the benefit then of working through this particular structure?
I think students remember this long term a little bit better. You know, by the if we traditionally just give them the definitions and then have them apply it, they'll remember it for the class. But a couple days down the road, they're not going to remember it as well as if they did it themselves. And what we try to do with these slides is that we actually have them do it and place it themselves, thinking on their previous knowledge. And we feel that this comes up with a better plan for long-term knowledge and long-term retainment.
Now, this particular way of teaching this type of lesson, does it take longer or is it less time or the same amount of time as if we'd gone the other direction?
Well, that's a great point. We always think we're in such a rush. We have so much material to get through, but this is telling us it takes longer. But what ends up happening, I think, Scott, is that they actually learn it better the first time so that we don't have to keep on reviewing it and reviewing it to get it in. They know it a little deeper that first time.
So then also you mentioned their prior knowledge, then you're also, it helps you to establish and differentiate which students have what type of prior knowledge based on this particular vocabulary here.
That's right. That's right.
So Dave, our looking at our tip that we have to move on to, oh, excuse me, we're skipping ahead here. I'm skipping ahead. You've got, when you're looking at here, this particular template that you've got, students now are, work with this and write on it and things like that. What process do you go to next?
Okay. Well, what I was thinking is that, a student might come up and share their examples in this. And then what they do is they actually would share this, and then we could clone the slide. We'll talk about cloning the slide in a few minutes, and different groups could actually do this.
Oh, now Dave, before we move on though, I guess I've forgotten to tell you this. Do you know, let's go back to the slide, I had the numbers there. Did you realize that then -2 and pi used to be a couple? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know -2 and pi were a couple.
Well, -2 left pi. Do you know why -2 left pi?
Why did -2 leave pi?
Well, it's just pi was just too irrational.
That's good. That's a good math joke.
All right. So our moving on then into looking at what our today's tip is we're looking at inserting pages and looking at page length. Now, typically when teachers start working with smart notebook documents, and especially teaching with this, is you start annotating things and writing things and adding things onto a page. And you get to the end of the page, and then you'll extend the page. And then you'll add something, and you'll extend the page, and extend the page. And if you look off to the right-hand side, you'll notice that my page is getting longer, but the text that I'm looking at is getting smaller and smaller because the aspect ratio is changing. And so The issue then is now if I want to go to something that was worked out in a problem, then I'm going to have to scroll back and forth and back and forth. And that can run into problems in terms of cohesiveness in the lesson and also keeping students' attention of what we're working on in a framework that students can see. So a better option then is to extend the page if you need to with what you're working on, but not to do it too much, but to go down to the toolbar down here and then go to inserting a blank page and then continuing with your process on that way. And then you can toggle between the two pages that you're working with instead of continually extending the page. Now, Dave, is there any other problems that you can see as far as if you continue to extend the page?
Well, yeah, when we try to print this, because sometimes we like to print out what we have, it does not print out too well. It's very skinny on the paper, and students can't always see what's there. So that's another reason why we want to go each slide.
Now, another feature then too is to move between pages if you want, because sometimes we'll look at it in the future as far as hiding these particular pages here is to toggle back and forth in terms of previous page and next page, which are just to the left of the inserting a blank page feature. Now, Dave, I noticed with the template that you had earlier, when you were looking at this one here, as far as, with your partner, find 3 different numbers for each corner. If I want to continue this process and students come up and write their examples down, well, then I need that to be erased, right? To be able to use it again?
Well, you know what? We could erase it, and that'd be time in front of the students that is wasted. And so previously, before the class, we would take this feature, which we go to the slides over here, and we click on the corner, and a drop-down menu appears, and we have the clone page option. And so if we clone this page, any page that we're on, we hit clone page, that whole page gets cloned. You can see these two pages are exactly the same now. Then we could do this a number of times, and now the students could have a number of pages that are all exactly the same that they could work on. So maybe the first pair come up and share their answers on this slide, and the next pair goes, and then we just advance to each slide, and maybe we only use 3. We could use all 4, or we just depends on how the class flows.
Now again, David, you mentioned that you did this beforehand. In other words, you structured your notebook document this way before classes started.
Yeah, and we are kind of modeling how a lesson might go in your class. You go slide to slide through the class, and sometimes you have slides that you're going to skip because of time. And this is kind of template works out real well, and we do all of this before class.
Okay. All right, so that was today's tutorial in terms of cloning a page. Now, Dave, is there any bioethics that we're violating here by cloning things or anything like that? Or are we in trouble that way?
Yeah, I don't think there are any laws about cloning a page in SmartBook Notebook.
Okay. And so just because the software is from Canada doesn't mean we're violating any international laws or anything like that. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're okay. Hey, we have had a full day, and let's recap.
So to look at what our lesson planning, number 1, we looked at our lesson idea of 4-corner sorting and getting students to construct their knowledge by taking their knowledge of numbers and our example here of different types of numbers and putting them into the sorting categories where they need to go. And then having students then work with their own examples and their own way of constructing their knowledge of definitions. Then we moved on to inserting pages and page length, being aware of not using the extend page too much, but inserting a blank page or cloning a page to work with, so that we're not having to recreate the wheel every single time that we work with the Smartboard document. That's
right. And we, again, would love for you to go to our website and download any materials that you need. And here's our emails if you'd like to get a hold of us.
And if you have any ideas of things that you'd like to see in the future or any comments, we welcome those.
That's right. Scott, I just have one more question for you.
What's that, Dave?
I heard that this guy, he had his left side and it was cut off.
Cut off?
Yeah. Do you know what happened to him?
No.
No? He's all right now.
Oh, boy. Well, I'm glad that's the case.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to seeing you next time.